Hello there, it's Paul here and welcome along everyone. This is my third part of the practical turning series and probably the last part. The first part I did the door and drawer knobs, and second part I did the little mini bowl just for storing things in the workshop while you're working along. The third part, shiplap boards. It's really to highlight that even what you class as really an off-cut scrap piece of wood, even though it's fairly flat, you can always do something with it on the lathe and make something practical for it out of the workshop. So this is going to be a bit longer to do because first of all I've got to cut these all up on the bandsaw to lengths that I can actually glue together. And then obviously I've got to wait for glue to set, and I may well do something a little bit different with grains going all over the place, just to highlight that you can really just about put any piece of wood together as scrap and make something useful out of it. So I'm going to start getting these over on the bandsaw and cutting off the edges. So I've got several shiplap boards here and they've all got a nice recess or curve on the edge there for the top lip, what would normally be your top part of the board, and a nice recess in the bottom there. So the recess is actually about 9mm, so I'm going to take 10mm off the bottom there, and the tops are around about 35mm, so it's going to hopefully leave a working piece of board probably around about 65 to 70mm. So I'm going to process all these first of all. Just going to take these down quickly. Like I say, just quickly take those off the edge there. That's all the bottom lips taken off there, so I'm now going to cut these at probably about 67mm, just so that they all end up at the same width. So yeah, that should be fine. Right, so that is all of those done. Let's just put these in size order. And now obviously if you've got a circular saw, or a bench saw rather, you're going to probably come up with a lot better finish than I've got there. But in actual fact, I'm quite pleased with that. They've come up a lot better than I thought they would. Okay, so what I've decided, I'm going to more or less glue them in that sort of shape. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of shiplap board running that way, and a piece on either end. But because they're not wide enough, they're just going to overlap the joins at each end, which isn't a problem because obviously by the time we turn this around you'll have lost all those corners anyway. So this piece of board is just about near enough about 150mm long, so what I'm going to do first of all, I'm going to chop all these at about 150mm and then start gluing them up. Right, so that should hopefully be all that I need. So next job then is I'm going to basically just, these should all be fairly flat anyway, but I'm just going to run them over a piece of sandpaper just to roughen them up, and this being softwood, it's actually going to compress fairly well when it's glued together. It's got a length of 80 grit there, and I just want to basically get the works. So I will be back when I next glue these pieces on. So after the initial glue up of the central 2, 4, 6 blocks there, I left it 24 hours, came out yesterday and just basically sanded down flat the edges here, so that these pieces would glue on nice and tightly and smoothly. And I've now left that roughly about 24 hours as well. So I've just marked off centres on here. It doesn't matter which way round it goes. Just using my normal spur centre, but for the live centre, because we're in softwood, and it's only because I've bought this anyway, I'm using my cone centre, which has actually got a small point just sticking on the end there, so at least the whole thing shouldn't dig in too much. So let's get this mounted on the lathe. And because this is all effectively side grain, it's just like an ordinary side grain spindle. I'm going to start off this with the spindle roughing gauge. Now, dimensions wise, we're 150mm long, which is 6 inches. One way from the overall width is about 85mm, which is 3 1/4, nearly 3.5 inches, and nearly 95mm, which is about 3 3/4 inches. So we're obviously a little bit wider one way than the other way, but I think with all these blocks glued in their different ways, could end up with some interesting patterns here. Right, because this is softwood, I've just given my rough and gauge a fresh sharpen, because the sharper your tools, the better cut you're going to get with softwood, hopefully to minimise some of the tear out. So, and also because this is so large, I'm definitely wearing a face shield. So I've got it in the jaws now. Just going to face off this front a bit so it's a bit more level, and then start hollowing out. And I mean, if you've got Forstner bits and stuff like that, you can do that, but I really enjoy manually hollowing, so while I can do it, I will do so. Whether I have to get a Forstner bit out or what, I don't know, so we'll just see how it goes. So I've managed to get in there 80mm, so it's the length there, length of my fingers. I've got a curved bottom in there which I'm not bothered about. It's come out quite well actually. The first 40-50mm I did with my spindle gouge, and at the last 30 to 40mm I did with the round nose scraper. And again, both were sharpened up before I started. The walls are fairly straight, an odd little bit in there. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to round the top off, and because I've got plenty of thickness here, gives us plenty of opportunity to do one or two beads or coves on the outside. Right, so we know our bottom is down here, and I'm going to allow probably about another 10mm or so for the base. So that's where the base will be. And I'm just going to mark that off with the parting tool first, and then I know where to work. So for the rest of this then, I'm just going to use a mixture of probably the spindle gouge and possibly my detail gouge, just to create one or two little beads. Well, that's actually come up quite nicely. I mean, I've only just sanded the 240, and that is actually feeling quite nice. I've got a little odd tool mark inside, but I'm not too bothered about that. I'm actually just going to put a bit of sanding sealer on it, just to see what this comes up like, because the grain in here is absolutely lovely, and I just think pine is so underrated. Well, just pile that off and I will be back. So there is the finished cup. It's quite chunky, but I'm not bothered about that. I wanted something practical for the workshop, and that is going to totally suit my needs, albeit a bit decorative. I must say that I really must practice more with my beading and coves. I don't do many, and I think it shows. So the reason for this, a while ago I made that, turned two cups out of a scrap piece of oak. They've got splits in them, sliced them in half on the bandsaw, cut this block out of piece of pallet wood, and just basically glued them on there. So I mainly use 5 grits of sandpaper that I buy like that, so obviously that only holds 4, and what I wanted this one for was basically to put my 600 grit in. So that's, like I say, another practical turning, and it's the last of the series, so that's part 3 done. So I hope you've enjoyed the series. If you've actually stayed through and watched the whole lot, thank you very much anyway. Part 1 was the knobs, which hopefully I'll show some pictures up here, for my drawers, for my drawer and my door. Part 2 was the little bowl, which I'm already using. Got some bits and pieces in there. And obviously part 3, the cup, whichever you want to call it. It's basically my sandpaper holder for my 600 grit. So, like I say, I think literally all the videos we see on YouTube for people doing wood turning are, they would do these sort of things if they're starting out. Like I say, I've been turning now for about 10 months, done a whole variety of things, from boxes, bowls, vases, lidded bowls, multi-boxes, all sorts. and I think I've actually covered quite a few things during my time of turning, but it's actually nice to get back to something like this, to basics. It acts as a practice. It's using scrap wood you've got probably lied about your workshop or around your home somewhere, which you would normally, like I say, just throw away or stick on a fire, something like that. And like I say, the knobs were out of a scrap piece of 2x2, the bowl out of a scrap piece of 4x2, and that was made up of about 8 or so pieces of shiplap board, which I don't think anybody would normally think of doing anything with. So to my way of thinking, to get something like that out of that shiplap board is actually something quite nice and worthwhile doing. So like I say, I really hope that a lot of you have actually stayed through the whole 3 parts of this and seen everything that's going on. I certainly look forward to reading and answering all your comments. Like I say, for a new turner, this is ideal. Have a play. It's how I got started. But again, for certainly the more experienced turners, is it something that you do very often? Do you actually just pick up some scrap softwood and turn it every now and then? Because like I say, it's scrap wood. You've got no worries about it. If you mess it up, you mess it up. But at the same time as well, for this series, it was about doing something practical, which all 3 things are going to be used in my workshop all the time. So if you're new, please subscribe. You'll at least get notified every time I upload a video. For my existing subscribers, again, a big thank you very much, especially if you've watched all 3 parts of this little mini series. And please, everybody, hit the share button, hit the like button, and please do leave some comments below. Let me know what you think. I've really enjoyed doing this. It's a big relief in some ways that there's no pressure worrying about that you've got to be so precise with doing the turning and everything like that. However it turned out. So, and it was great fun. So thanks a lot for watching. Bye.